All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started on our lesson today. We are going to be doing Unit 6 from our Chuseok holiday. We'll be talking about Unit 6. Sorry if you cannot see my face right now. I'm having some kind of problem with my recording device, but we are going to continue anyways with Unit 6. Unit 6, we are going to be describing events using the past perfect. So let's go ahead and get your books open and get ready for that unit. Okay, Unit 6, past perfect. So the vocabulary we're going to jump into on page 36 of your book. We'll go straight to that. So here we have Unit 6. He had never been abroad. So that's what we're talking about today, that grammar. He had never been abroad. Very useful way to speak about past events using the past perfect. Today we're talking about describing events, the past perfect, and we're focusing on bad travel events. So let's take a look at this vocabulary. All right, so we have some people at an airport here. Let's go ahead and talk about what these are. So number one, we see here the baby. The baby is being noisy, right? Noisy. And then we have a man here talking to the receptionist. What is his behavior? We can say that he is angry. He is angry. But the worker here, she is very kind, patient, and pleasant. So we have E, she is very cheerful in that situation. Even though he's angry, she's very cheerful. Moving on to number 4, we see this woman here. She is listening to music, reading a magazine while she's waiting in line. So we can say that she is patient. She is patient. And then over here, number 5, we have an accident, some situation happening. Looks like the luggage is spilling out. So we can say that is F, careless. This man is careless, meaning he is not careful. He's not taking care of the luggage. And then number 6 here, we see this man is running very fast. It looks like he's late, so we can describe him as be in a hurry. Be in a hurry. So we're talking about in a hurry. He is trying to go somewhere quickly. All right, and today we're talking about adverbs and adjectives. So let's take a look at the difference between adverbs and adjectives. So here, activity 1, we can see these adjectives to describe a noun. To describe a noun, we use an adjective, right? So a noun. For example, the baby. The baby is a noun, so we use to describe that baby. We can say the baby is noisy. The baby is noisy. So that is for an adjective. What if we want to talk about an action or a verb? Then we have to use an adverb. An adverb describes the verb or gives more meaning to the verb. For example, the baby cried noisily. So there we can see that noisily, that ly signifies our adverb, and cried here is our verb. So we add some information to the verb. We call that an adverb. The baby cried noisily. All right. So that's the difference between an adjective, which describes a noun, and an adverb, which describes a verb. So let's go back to the book now. We can see some examples here. So we have amazing, shingihada. Right, we know amazing. We want to add an ly to that to make it into an adjective, amazingly. Then we have angry here as an adjective. If we want to change that to an adverb, we can say angrily. And then we have careless here. That is an adjective. If we want to change that to an adverb, carelessly. You can see the pattern here. Cheerful, cheerfully. Final, finally. Lucky, luckily. Noisy, noisily. patient, patiently, quick, quickly, sudden, 갑자기, suddenly, surprising, 노래라, surprisingly, unfortunate, unfortunately. So these are very good examples of some adverbs that you can use in your everyday speaking of English to help describe some verbs, right? So we will go to the next page to our conversation. We see two people having a conversation here. And let's go ahead and listen to their conversation, and then we'll talk about some of the language in this video.
Anna, you're back. How was your trip to Brazil?
Great once I got there. My flight was delayed by mechanical problems. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, my connecting flight had left.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know. Luckily, my friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. The rest of my trip went smoothly.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks. How about you? Didn't you go somewhere recently?
Yeah, I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before, so I visited lots of museums in my spare time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, but unfortunately, my flight was delayed too.
All right, so we listened to the conversation. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the language. So Anthony starts, oh, you're back. How was your trip to Brazil? Great. Once I got there, emphasizing that it took a long time to get there. My flight was delayed by, 뭐라고? She said, mechanical problems. And here's our key verb, here our key sentence for today. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, my connecting flight had left. So those are those two important words here, connecting flight. If you're going somewhere on a long trip and you have to fly to one city and then you have to change your flight to go to another city, so that is called your connecting flight. For example, if you're flying to China, you have to fly from Ulsan to Seoul to Shanghai. So your connecting flight is in Seoul, where it's connected you from the two destinations. And then we have our adverb here, finally. All right, let's continue with the conversation. Oh, that's terrible. She says, I know, luckily, my friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. And the rest of my trip went smoothly. Went smoothly, 뭐라고? Went smoothly means there was no problems. So she had no problems, so that nothing happened. That's good. I'm glad to hear it. Good news. Good to hear it. And then Anna says, thanks. How about you? Didn't you go somewhere recently? Recently? Yeah, I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before, so I visited lots of 어디 museums. So here's our sentence structure, which contains our grammar. I had not been there before, so he's saying I have never been to Paris. So I visited lots of museums in my spare time, free time, 자유 시간. So he's saying it was my first time in Paris. I didn't have any experience in Paris. So what do you do in Paris? You go to museums, right? So I hadn't been there before. I was unfamiliar with the place. So I visited lots of museums because Paris is famous for museums. Wow, that's great. And then Anthony says, yeah, but unfortunately, there's an adverb, unfortunately, my flight was delayed too. So I also had a delayed flight, right? So there we can see some of the examples of those adjectives and adverbs. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording there. So we'll stop right there in this conversation. And I will make another video. So go to the next video for the part of our grammar. Okie dokie. All right, I'll see you in the next video.